1879 issue of Zion's Watchtower, where he stated, "A truth presented by Satan himself is just as true as a truth stated by God. Accept truth wherever you find it, no matter what it contradicts." This presented by Satan himself is just as true as a truth stated by God. Accept truth wherever you find it, no matter what it contradicts. This philosophy is reflected in the New World Translation of Jehovah's Witnesses.
When early Watchtower teachings that the world entered the so-called time of the end in 1799, that Jesus returned invisibly in 1874, and that the world would end in 1914 were proven false, doctrine was conveniently readjusted. In the new version, 1914 became the date of both Christ's invisible return and the beginning of the time of the end. This date was put forth not as theory or interpretation, but as hard, indisputable fact. Watchtower Society official Eugene Mortensen.
Jehovah's Witnesses, from their study of the Bible, have firm belief in the fact that since the fall of 1914, Jesus has come into kingdom power. And as he prophesied in the 24th chapter of Matthew, the generation who saw the beginning of this time would not pass away until all things would be accomplished. That means also the end of this wicked system of things.
The Watchtower Society is very concerned that time is running out for the so-called generation of 1914. The few who are still living are quite elderly, and should they all pass away before Armageddon, Jehovah's Witnesses will be faced with another false prophecy to explain. Anticipating this future embarrassment, the Chairman's Committee of the governing body actually prepared a document suggesting the date be changed from 1914 to 1957. Raymond Franz was a member of the governing body when this recommendation was considered.
Now, in this document, they suggest and advance as an idea that the generation that would see the time of the end of all things should not be counted from 1914. They fix on Jesus' statement that there would be signs in the heavens. And so they suggest here that the date should be moved up to 1957, when the Sputnik was sent into space by the Russians. And they say, now this is the celestial phenomena that would indicate the generation that would see the final wind-up.
The Sputnik idea was ultimately rejected by the governing body, but for the generation of 1914, time is running out.
How did the Watchtower arrive at 1914 as an all-important date? Their chronology is based on the year 607 BC, which they claim is the year Jerusalem fell to the Babylonians. Carl Olof Johnson, Swedish author of the book The Gentile Times Reconsidered, is a former Jehovah's Witness elder and pioneer minister.
I didn't question this chronology in the beginning because I thought the Bible supported it. I knew, of course, that historians dated the desolation of Jerusalem not in 607, but in 587 or 586. But in 1968, I conducted a Bible study with a man who wanted to know why historians they prefer the date 20 years later. So I started to investigate the matter. And I soon discovered that historians had very strong evidence in their support.
Johnson compiled his research and sent it to Watchtower headquarters. But the Society's leaders were determined to keep their doctrinal system intact.
I got a letter with a warning. I was warned that I should not share my findings with other witnesses.
To conceal the facts and suppress his 7 years of research, the Watchtower Society excommunicated Carl Olof Johnson.
Our teaching on Jesus Christ is that Jesus is the Son of God. He was the first thing that Jehovah created, and through him other creative works were done. Now, some religions teach that God and Jesus are one and the same, but the Bible does not teach that, and therefore neither do Jehovah's Witnesses.
We believe that the Bible teaches that Jesus carries out a number of functions for Jehovah God, the Most High. For example, in the Hebrew Scriptures, he is referred to as Michael. Michael, literally translated into English, means who is like God.
Witnesses believe that Jesus Christ is a spirit creature, a super angel, the first creation of Jehovah God, who prior to coming to earth as a man, existed in heaven as Michael the archangel. Jesus started out originally as the Logos, or Michael the archangel. Who then came to earth as the virgin-born son of Mary. He was a perfect, sinless man, but he was only a man, devoid of all divinity. Jesus walked the earth as a man, becoming the Christ only when he was baptized. Jehovah's Witnesses hold the cross in contempt, feeling that it is nothing more than a pagan symbol used by apostate Christendom. Instead, they teach that at the completion of his ministry, Jesus died, not on the cross, but on an upright stake. Christ's body was then laid in a tomb, where it was disintegrated by God, totally destroyed forever. Jesus was then recreated by the Father. On different occasions, to convince his disciples and others that he had really been resurrected. Jesus returned to his Father in heaven, where once again he became Michael the archangel. He will never again be seen on the earth in visible form, but instead rules invisibly from the heavens. When he executes judgment over the world at Armageddon, he will destroy all but the faithful Jehovah's Witnesses. Jesus, alias Michael, will always remain invisible to those on earth and can be seen only by the 144,000 select Jehovah's Witnesses who rule with him from heaven.
If you should choose to accept the Watchtower's current prophecy of Armageddon, whatever that may be, and decide to protect yourself by becoming a Jehovah's Witness, you will find yourself in a unique two-class religion.
Only the upper class, the 144,000 spoken of in Revelation, are guaranteed a place in heaven, and they are known as the anointed. The Watchtower Society teaches that the vast majority of Jehovah's Witnesses constitute a secondary group referred to as the other sheep. They have no heavenly hope, but must remain on earth for all eternity.
Once a year, on the anniversary of the Last Supper, Jehovah's Witnesses and invited persons gather for this communion-like ceremony. Only members of the anointed class who are alive today, about 9,000 worldwide, partake of the bread and wine. The millions of other sheep will not take communion. The other sheep are not in the new covenant and therefore have no personal relationship with Jesus Christ. How then do they hope to attain salvation?
The Jehovah's Witness is told he may not look to Jesus alone for everlasting life. As one of the other sheep, he must also depend on the Watchtower organization for his passage to paradise. In turn, the organization says he's required to earn his salvation largely by calling door to door.
It's strange, but they seem able to teach two different things, opposite things, simultaneously. They agree that the Bible teaches that we are saved by grace, or, as they put it, God's undeserved kindness, and not by works. And yet the average witness believes, he hasn't the slightest doubt, that unless he performs the works that are laid out for him by the Watchtower Society, the witnessing activity, going door to door, regular meeting attendance, and other things that are brought out. It's strange, but they seem able to teach two different things, opposite things, simultaneously. They agree that the Bible teaches that we are saved by grace, or, as they put it, God's undeserved kindness, and not by works. And yet the average witness believes, he hasn't the slightest doubt, that unless he performs the works that are laid out for him by the Watchtower Society, the witnessing activity, going door to door, regular meeting attendance, and other things that are brought out, that he will never gain everlasting life.
Once in the organization, witnesses attend 5 hours of meetings a week. In addition, they are expected to devote many hours a month going door to door, selling literature and gaining converts, striving always to prove themselves worthy of escaping God's wrath at Armageddon.
Even though we believed that God was love, we were always afraid that he was going to zap us, that sometime Armageddon might hit and we might not make it. Even if we didn't go out from the door-to-door ministry on a weekend and took our family out to the lake or something, and we didn't go out from door to door, we felt guilty all the time.
In order to keep a close check on the activities of each member, the organization requires them to turn in a monthly time report if they want to be retained on the rolls as active Jehovah's Witnesses.
We don't keep any membership records per se, but the only record we have is those who actually go door to door preaching.
Today, when the new Jehovah's Witness is baptized, rather than using the biblical format of baptizing in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, the witness is baptized in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Spirit-directed organization.
This is a dedication to them that is without any reservation. They are now going to set their entire life aside to do their Creator's will.
Thus baptized, the Jehovah's Witness is now committed to slave for the organization until the world comes to an end.
Jehovah's Witnesses exist in a rigid, structured, thou shalt not environment. They are forbidden to vote or hold elective office, celebrate holidays, belong to the YMCA or YWCA, salute the flag, sing the national anthem, or participate in other patriotic activities. They can't serve in the military or work for a military organization. They may not accept blood transfusions, read anything critical of the Watchtower Society, or associate with former Jehovah's Witnesses. They are forbidden to even attend church.
If life is narrow for the adult witness, the problem is greatly intensified for their school-age children. The Watchtower Society has published a book entitled School and Jehovah's Witnesses. It defines for schools what activities witness children are forbidden to participate in. Things like birthday celebrations, Christmas and Easter, sports, Mother's or Father's Day, Valentine's Day or Thanksgiving, saluting the flag or school dances, singing the national anthem, or saying the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands.
Children are real victims in this. Jehovah's Witness children cannot participate in many of the normal school activities, and as a result are often mocked by their classmates. They are really torn because on one hand they want to please their parents, and on the other hand they want to be accepted by their teachers and classmates. There is no way they can win. They are literally torn apart emotionally. I know this firsthand because my own daughter cried nearly every day in school from the first time she entered until an extremely loving teacher made her feel at ease in the 4th grade. The life of a witness child is very isolated because playing with non-witness schoolmates and neighborhood children is considered bad association.
The Watchtower Society presents Jehovah's Witnesses as clean, happy, and unquestionably moral.
The Bible has a lot to say about family life, and the reason Jehovah's Witnesses have such happy families is because we try to apply the principles that are found in the Bible.
This protects them from many of the pressures and the problems that afflict a family life today. For example, Jehovah's Witnesses, while not immune to the pressures and problems, are able to cope with the difficulties that husbands and wives face, that children are confronted with every day. And so we have a very low incidence of family dissolving or juvenile delinquency, drug abuse, and alcoholism. And that shows the benefit and the profit of following God's word closely.
Former Jehovah's Witnesses disagree.
Growing up as a child within Jehovah's Witnesses, I always thought that this was God's clean organization. But when I got older, I found out that there were divorces, there was gross immorality within the congregations, and that we were actually no different than the ones we were condemning.
As an elder, I saw the seedy side of the congregation. Members would come to me with their problems, and I found out that even elders were involved sometimes in crooked business practices and in immorality. And I began to discover that we were really no better than the people on the outside of the organization.
When I left Bethel, it was hard for me to even share with my mother and father what was going on up there, the drunken parties that went on, and the homosexuality and things like this.
Finally, the Watchtower had to admit that immorality had spread to the highest levels of the organization, saying, shocking as it is, even some who have been prominent in Jehovah's organization have succumbed to immoral practices, including homosexuality, wife-swapping, and child molesting. Alcoholism, depression, and mental disorders among Jehovah's Witnesses have come to the attention of psychiatric professionals. Dr. Jerry Bergman is a former Jehovah's Witness and a trained psychologist.
In my experience in working for a number of psychiatric clinics as a therapist, I've worked with many Jehovah's Witnesses, and I find that many of them suffer from severe emotional problems, from schizophrenia, from severe depression, alcoholism, and other problems. I've also consulted the scientific literature on this question, and I've found that it clearly confirms that the mental illness rate among the witnesses is clearly above average.
One of the most intimidating devices used by the Watchtower Society is the threat of appearing before a judicial committee of elders. Public censure, even disfellowshipping, can be the sentence of this powerful court. The inflexibility of Watchtower policies has led to thousands of instances of mental distress, even suicide. Dottie Hike's family experienced the cold steel of Watchtower doctrine when her 16-year-old son Billy became romantically involved with a married Jehovah's Witness woman. Conscience-stricken, Billy turned to his parents.
He was very upset, extremely distraught, and he just didn't know what to do. And he was making statements like, I just can't go on. I just can't face this. And he was threatening to commit suicide. My husband and I talked with him for hours and did everything and said everything we knew to do to try to get him to realize that there's no situation too bad that you can't face. But things just were not getting any better. So as witnesses, you're taught not to seek the professional help of anyone. So we felt our hands were so tied we didn't know what to do.
The family turned to an elder of the congregation for help. The elder called Billy outside, and his parents felt a solution was near. But their hopes were short-lived.
We felt the elder would really have some kind of words of consolation for him, even though no one condoned what he had done. This boy was reaching out for help, and he did need someone to console him. And he felt so guilty and so at a loss. And instead, the elder just said, the committee will deal with you tomorrow. He went out to my husband's truck, where he kept a small amount of paraquat in a container. And Billy took the paraquat, and he took one swallow of it. We had him in the hospital within 20 minutes. Exactly 3 weeks later, he died.
Did the witness congregation respond with compassion to this tragedy? Billy's sister, Rhonda.
When he died, it really devastated me. At his memorial service, none of his friends that he'd known all of his life were able to attend, and that really hurt me. The Jehovah's Witnesses claim to bring the families together. Through them, my brother killed himself. My mother tried to kill herself. My 2 sisters and my brother will not speak to me. My grandmother will not speak to me. She wouldn't let me see my grandfather before he passed away. They didn't bring our family close together. They nearly totally destroyed it.
While the members of the governing body may escape blame for the death of one desperate boy, they can hardly escape responsibility for their policies in the African country of Malawi, policies that left thousands of witnesses raped, homeless, or dead.
In the mid-1960s,